Welcome, friends. Today, I'm going to be telling you all about our project dealing with rats, brains, and fear response.
So anyway, back to fear responses. So this is the neurological circuit for innate fear responses. So the way this works is that the ventral hippocampus in the brain has neurons that project over to the lateral septum, and from there project to the anterior hypothalamus. And this is involved in behaviors that demonstrate innate fear. Fear that isn't learned or that isn't taught, but something that is genetic and ingrained from a very early age.
Now, on the other hand, the ventral hippocampus, which, as Alex just said, is involved in the innate fear response pathway, is also involved in the conditioned fear response pathway in the brain. So what we are wondering and hypothesizing is whether or not a region downstream of the ventral hippocampus, such as the anterior hypothalamus, may also be involved in this conditioned fear response pathway. The way that we are going to be testing our rats' innate fear response is we are going to put them in an open field maze. And while we do that, we have this cotton ball here, which we are putting 1 milliliter of bobcat urine on, because bobcat urine is a predator odor to the rats. So, ideally, what we want to happen is for the rats to fear the bobcat urine. So, we take this cotton ball and we place it in the outer chamber here, between this inner box and this outer box that's being used to keep the scent contained. So what we do is we place rat right in the middle of this red box right here, and we allow him to wander freely for 30 minutes. So ideally, if he spends more time around the outer edges, that indicates higher levels of fear and anxiety. Where if the rat spends more time in the center area, which is more open, he is less afraid.
So this is the box where we test our conditioned fear paradigm. So the way we condition our rat is we put him in this box, close the lid, and then we would bang these two frying pans together, like this. A bunch of times. We do it 15 times over the course of an hour. And over that period of time, he's supposed to become conditioned.
So the very first time we tried to condition, we tried pairing a light from our cell phones along with the noise of the frying pans to startle them. But it turns out that the light itself wasn't really strong enough to really elicit a response, so that wound up not working so well. It has been a rather frustrating day. Our rat is not afraid of the Skinner box at all, and we're not really sure what to do. So yeah. So we wound up having to switch, and instead of doing a conditioned stimulus with an unconditioned stimulus in kind of the classical paradigm, we wound up trying to do more of a placement conditioning. So we tried to get the rats to fear the box itself.
So we ran into even more problems with the contextual conditioning along the way. The original paper that we had read had just over the course of an hour managed to condition a rat to fear a light stimulus. But then we had to change it to contextual conditioning, and we figured it would probably still work the same. But even over the course of 3 periods of 1 hour of banging frying pans together, it still didn't really seem like we were effectively able to make our rat fear the box that he was put in. And then unfortunately we kind of were running up on a surgery deadline, and we had to test him. So we put him in the box, and he just kind of wandered around and explored as if he'd never been there before. So it was a little bit frustrating that we didn't really think that we were successful in that part of our experiment.
We are about to do our surgery. We have another 5 minutes to wait before we inject our rat with the anesthetic. And then it's go time.
So in brief, when we did the surgery, we obviously anesthetized our rat, and then we lesioned the anterior hypothalamus. So I know when I walked into the surgery, I was actually surprised by how confident I felt in myself. Obviously this is something I'd never done before. It was a little bit out of my comfort zone. But I was excited to get going, even though we only had a little bit of practice time doing suturing, and we only watched one surgery. I felt pretty good about the whole procedure.
And I think it went pretty well. Really nothing went wrong. I mean, sometimes it was a little bit, difficult to anesthetize him. I did get bitten the first time that we had to inject him with the anesthesia, but that's okay. I forgive him. But beyond that, I mean, the surgery went really well, and I was really pleased with the results.
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited when we finished the surgery. The whole thing went pretty smooth, actually, surprisingly. Not surprisingly because we weren't prepped. I mean, I felt pretty prepped going into it. But just sometimes in science, things don't always go the way you plan, and the surgery was one part for us that went pretty darn smooth.
So once we finished up all our initial testing and performed our surgery, we then had to retest both of those behavioral paradigms again. So once again, we put both of our rats into the scanner box, test their fear conditioning, and then we put them back into the open field maze with the bobcat urine again to test their innate fear once more. This is a little bit of a frustrating process. Again, like we said before, we really weren't very confident that we had conditioned the rat at all. Neither of them really seemed to be responding, so it was a little bit frustrating to have to redo these tests and really not be sure if anything real was actually coming out of them. So that was a little bit frustrating, but, hopefully things turn out better than expected. So after we finished up all of our behavioral testing, we unfortunately had to euthanize our rat so that we could collect his brain so that we would be able to verify that we had placed our electrode and we did lesion in the proper area.
So our experimental rat, we euthanized via a process called perfusion, and that allowed us to fix its brain so that we could then later take a look at it. We would slice the brain on the cryostat, perform some chemical procedures on it, and then we're able to take a look at the sections under the microscope.
So it was a bit of a difficult thing to actually go about and euthanize the rats. I mean, part of our methods of taking care of them every day was that we have to go in and handle them, which basically amounts to like 5 to 10 minutes of cuddling this animal every single day, really, for like 2 months, basically, maybe a little more than that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too where you know and you understand from the beginning that it's an experimental animal that is meant to be put forth for science, and you know that that's the purpose of the animal and here's your plan. But at the same time, you can't help but get a little bit attached, especially when, like Alex said, you do have to go in and you handle them daily, so you just kind of get attached a little bit that way, and it's difficult sometimes in order to detach that natural human, oh, cute little rat, from this is my job and this is science. And I think sometimes though it's okay that they mix. I don't know. It's difficult. It was sad. The difficult thing with this experiment was that we only had 2 rats to work with. We had an experimental and a controlled, and with that, our results didn't super pan out the way that we would have hoped or that we had hypothesized. So a little bit messy once we ran the statistics.
And also, once we had actually looked at our brain sections and that we'd stained to see if we could, see where the electrode had actually lesioned, we weren't able to confirm that a lesion actually occurred or that it had occurred in the area that we were interested in.
So I think one of the more difficult portions of science is taking a look at your results and trying to make sense of everything. So for instance, since we were not able to confirm the placement of our lesion, that may be why our results didn't pan out as expected. I think there really is so much more in the realm of science than people realize. When papers come out, all anybody really sees is the end product, but what you don't get to see is everything that happens behind the scenes, all the time that goes into it, all the hard work, all the dedication.
So even though things didn't, really turn out the way that we had hoped or expected, I think this was a really great experience overall. I really enjoyed being involved in the research process, and working with the rats and getting more hands-on experience with all of these skills and things that we learned. So I think overall it was a really great experience, and I'm really glad that we had the time to do this.
How do you end videos?